Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to have you all here for Sacramento County's second virtual redistricting workshop. Today is Wednesday, June 23rd, and we're starting right on time at 9:30 a.m. I'm Courtney Bailey Canellis, Sacramento County's Registrar of Voters, and I have the pleasure to be hosting our second redistricting workshop this morning, where we will ask the public to weigh in on the redrawing of our supervisorial district boundaries and hopefully provide you, the public, with some options on how to participate in redistricting. Before we get started with the official announcements on how the workshop will be conducted, I am going to ask our hired consultants from NDC to introduce themselves. NDC, or National Demographics Corporation, was selected by Sacramento County through a competitive bidding process to assist the county with redrawing of the supervisorial district boundaries based on the most recent decennial census data. While the final district boundaries will be approved by the current Board of Supervisors, NDC will be responsible for collecting the public comments and coming up with the draft maps and proposals for the public and the board to review. So NDC, if you could please introduce yourselves to our community, please.
Yes, thank you, Courtney. I'm Doug Yoakum, a consultant with National Demographics Corporation, a resident of Elk Grove, and I will be helping Sacramento citizens in participating in this process. With us also are the president of our corporation, Doug Johnson.
Good morning, and my appreciation to the county and to the members of the public joining us this morning. As Courtney mentioned, we've been doing this a long time. We've been in this business since 1979, working with jurisdictions up and down the state and actually all across Arizona as well. So it's our pleasure to be working with the county, and we look forward to getting lots of maps from residents, hopefully. So thank you to everyone who's participating. And with us as well as the County Vice President, Justin Levitt. Justin, you want to say a few words?
Oh, maybe I can hit the right button. It's good morning, welcome, and thank you all for coming. My name is Dr. Justin Levitt with National Demographics. I'm being the Q&A, answering some questions as we go on, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Wonderful, thank you. Doug, and Justin, appreciate you being here with us this morning to make sure all of us know how to participate with redistricting, what redistricting is, why it's important, and of course, making sure we know how to participate and submit our comments and ideas. So I'm going to go ahead and read a few announcements on how this workshop will be conducted. And actually, before I do that, I do also want to acknowledge the county redistricting team, which also includes folks from our County Department of Technology, our Clerk of the Board Office, our Public Information Office, our county executive team, and also our Assistant Registrar of Voters, Hangwin. So appreciate all of your help for getting this going and working with our community on this project. So the county is hosting this virtual public workshop to provide an overview of the redistricting process and give a demonstration of the mapping tools and allow for community input. Public input is vital to a successful redistricting project. So we do want to allow plenty of time during this workshop to ask questions and for the community to provide feedback. NDC will give a presentation for about 30 minutes, and then we will open it up for public comments. Community members can make a comment by phone or submit comments through the Zoom Q&A feature. It is important to note that any phone comments or questions or comments submitted through the Zoom Q&A feature will become part of the official public record and posted to our redistricting website. So just keep that in mind as you're making your public comments. To make a public comment by phone during tonight's presentation, please dial 916-875-2500 and choose option 1, then follow the prompts to be placed in the queue. You may be on hold for an extended period and your patience is appreciated. I will ask staff to transfer each caller into the workshop, and then the caller will have 3 minutes to provide input. The chat feature in Zoom will not be available, but participants can still submit their questions or comments through the Q&A feature, and we will make sure to read those out loud. Language interpretation services are available for all languages. Please call the public comment phone line at 916-875-2500. Choose number 1, and staff will connect you with a language interpreter. You and the language interpreter will be transferred into the workshop to make a comment. Additional time will be given to callers who are using a language interpretation service. There will also be an American Sign Language interpreter present on your screen. Please be mindful of the time limits to avoid being interrupted or disconnected. More time may be considered for callers. It kind of depends on volume, and we just want to make sure we have the opportunity to hear from all participants that may have questions or comments. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding as we work through these virtual workshops, and we make sure to give everyone the opportunity to provide input on this process. Now, if you are experiencing technical difficulties, you can send a text or call the clerk's office for assistance at 916-599-0112. You can also email at boardclerk@saccounty.net, and staff will contact you and provide assistance. Even if you don't participate with the phone or the Q&A, you can still always submit your comments to us by emailing redistricting@saccounty.net, or you can mail your comments to the clerk of the board's office at 700 H Street, Suite 2450, Sacramento 95814, and attention it to the clerk of the board. All public comments will be evaluated in this redistricting process, so the more the merrier. Thank you for your patience as we get started on this, and we will go ahead and turn this over to NDC to tell us all about redistricting.
Thank you, Courtney. We have a presentation to put up for you. Welcome to the Sacramento County redistricting process. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the schedule that's going to go forward, some of the rules that the board is required to follow under state and federal law. And then we will show you some of the tools that we have already placed on the Sacramento County redistricting website to assist citizens in getting involved in the process. The redistricting process has already started in Sacramento County. We've had our first official board meeting, and currently we are in the middle of this process. We're having 2 virtual community workshops. This is the second of those. After this, we will have workshops in each supervisory district, at least one, and most like in some, we will have 2 meetings. And then we will move through the process where in mid-August, the official census data gets released. But there's a period after that where the state has to put some special, what shall we call them, changes into the data so that it meets with state law. And then the State Redistricting Commission uses that data and passes it along for use to any city or county in the state. So we will be using the official state redistricting database, and that will be available in early October for use by everyone. So the end of the process basically starts at that point where you folks can draw maps, submit them to the county for consideration, and all of them will be posted on the website. We will summarize them for the Board of Supervisors, And starting in November, they will start making decisions as to which maps to consider. And by this December 7th, they will hopefully make a decision as to which map to choose. The state requires the counties to complete the process by December 15th of this year. So let's talk a little bit about what the rules are that the state has mandated all counties to follow. We must first follow the federal law, which requires all districts to be equal in population. We expect this year in Sacramento County that each district will probably have to have around 307,000 people each. That's based on some estimates that we've made of the county population. And we will change that number slightly when the official data comes out. But we expect that each district will have around 307,000 people in it. We are required, of course, to follow the Federal Voting Rights Act, which mandates that any protected class of voters not be split or combined in a way that takes away their opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. That is basically a no racial gerrymandering mandate, and we must comply with that mandate. California has several new rules this year that all counties must comply with. Districts must be geographically contiguous. In other words, they must be connected to the district itself must be connected and not in separate pieces. Counties are required to not divide neighborhoods and communities of interest. And we will show you in a minute what we mean by those particular terms. To the extent possible, cities and census designated places within a county must be kept together. Examples of this: Elk Grove is a city, Citrus Heights is a city, Orangevale is a census designated place, and Wilton and others are census designated places. If you want to look at a map of these in Sacramento County, we've already posted one of them on the redistricting website for you to easily download. The fourth state rule that we're required to follow is these districts must have easily identifiable boundaries to the extent possible. That means using major streets, freeways, rivers as boundaries for the district so that people can understand where the districts are, so that they don't wander through neighborhoods. And finally, the districts are required to be compact. And that means we cannot bypass one group of people in order to get to a more distant group of people. And there is one specific prohibition in state law, and that is that districts shall not favor or discriminate against a political party. Now, there are other things that we're allowed to take into consideration because they are not prohibited, but they are not required either. And one of them is minimize voters who are shifted to different election years. And let me explain that. Supervisors are elected every 4 years. So some are in a gubernatorial election and some are in the presidential election. To the extent possible, we should not shift people from one district to another so that they lose their opportunity to vote for their supervisor at their scheduled election every 4 years. We also like to respect voters' choices. In other words, we keep a continuity in office of those people who have already been elected. In other words, we don't willy-nilly put supervisors in districts in with each other so that they have to run against each other. We can also take into consideration future population growth. Example of this would be a district where we know perhaps that there's going to be some growth, population growth in the future. So we underpopulate that district and we then overpopulate slightly a district next to it. That's a consideration that we may take into account if it applies. And generally, this is related to not putting incumbents together. We preserve the core of existing districts. In other words, we're not going to make any major changes to districts that are currently in play, unless there are population shifts that need to be made in order for them to become equally populated. So let's explain a little bit about what we mean by neighborhood. You can go to the next slide.
I think we're on the defining neighborhoods. Is there to kind of talk about how a neighborhood defines itself?
That's what I'm looking for, yes.
I do see that on my screen.
There we go. So let me explain to you a little bit about what we mean by neighborhoods. And this we'll ask these questions of folks who attend our workshops in each of the districts. In other words, what is your neighborhood? And we'll actually show you some tools that you can use to help define it, and you can actually send it in to us. Your neighborhood is what you think your neighborhood is. And we ask that you define it by what are your geographical boundaries and physical features that help define that neighborhood boundary. So natural dividing lines such as highways, roads, rivers, or hills that put a boundary around your neighborhood. A lot of people identify with neighborhoods in their local that conform to their local school or their attendance area. A park is often a central area in a neighborhood. And just tell us what your landmarks are. Tell us what your neighborhood is and why you think it's your neighborhood. So now I'll explain a little bit what a community of interest is. Community of interest is defined in law, and it's a geographic area that shares an issue or a characteristic, either social or economic, and that issue is impacted by county policy. It could be housing, it could be individual rights, it could be traffic, whatever issue defines what your interest is, and there's a community around that. To the extent possible, we have to respect that. So what we're asking of the community is to define that. And can you draw a boundary around a group of people who live in an area who'd identify with that particular community of interest? And then our second question that we're asking is, does that community benefit from being included in a district, or does it benefit from being in more than one district? So those are the questions we're going to be asking when we see you, when you come to a workshop in your supervisor district. So now we're going to explain a little bit about the tools you can use, first to define these neighborhoods and communities, and then to actually draw maps and submit them for consideration to the county. Doug Johnson will help explain this.
Thank you, and it's good to be with everybody. So as Doug Yoakum just mentioned, we're looking for a lot of community input, and the county has made available a whole bunch of tools that empower folks to share your thoughts in a way that is most effective. But you know, these are empowering tools. There's no requirement to use these, but hopefully we've covered a wide range of options so everyone will find something that they're comfortable with. We'll start with, there's a simple kind of learn about your community map that'll show you. We'll follow that with a very simple way of reviewing draft maps as they come in and reviewing all the socioeconomic data that goes with them. And those are just simple review and look tools. Then we get into a tool that will help you draw your neighborhood to give us the exact geographic boundaries of your neighborhood that you want kept together. And then we'll get into some tools that empower you to actually draw the district maps yourself and send those ideas in for the board to consider. So with that, let me jump in here. First of all, we have what's called a story map. This is a kind of a guided dive into the geography and socioeconomic data for the county. And you can use this to look for data on communities of interest. For example, if you identify your community or neighborhood as an area that is, say, heavily Spanish speakers, you'll see that you can use this to identify where the households are that contain Spanish speakers. So with that, let me jump into it. We'll switch over here. This is our story map. It begins with a little introduction. And as you just simply scroll down, you get to all the geography. Here's a map of those cities and the census designated places that Mr. Yoakum was referring to earlier. So places and unincorporated areas. And then there's also small tracts and blocks that are census geography that are typically smaller than your census designated places and cities that you can look at. So that's just basic geography you can look at. As we scroll down, you can zoom in and see the details of each individual district. Just like in District 1, you can come down here and use the plus to zoom way in. So if you want to know exactly where the current borders are and where the current districts come together, you can zoom way in and see the exact streets that are used as the borders. As I continue to scroll down, this is where we get to the really interesting stuff. This is the socioeconomic data. I mentioned earlier, you can look at where do people speak Spanish at home. And the purple and blues are less than 50% of households speak Spanish at home. And when you get into the yellows, the greens, yellows, and if there were reds, those are more than 50% of households speak Spanish at home. In this case, we don't have any census block groups where more than 75% speak Spanish at home, so we don't have any reds. But the greens, yellows, and reds are the majority group in any of these. And of course, we have lots of demographic data available through this process. Where are there children at home, income levels, education levels, renters, the percentage of households that are occupied by renters. And then for the Voting Rights Act compliance, the key data is the citizen voting age population, or CVAP. This is what the courts look at as the best measure of eligible voters. So where we're looking at this, in this case, we're looking at the red blocks are where more than 75% of the eligible voters are, in this case, African American. And you can look at Latinos. You see, this is city block by city block data, so it takes a second to fill in. And Asian Americans are all in here. And again, it zooms in on a preset area, but you can use your mouse to move around and to zoom in and to zoom out. So fairly handy tool, lets you see lots of data and kind of put data to the story for your community of interest. That's the first kind of basic tool. It's really a guided story of geography and demographics for the county. The next tool is a map where you have more control. So it's very similar data, Although, as noted on here, once the draft maps start coming out, they will be added to this map as well. So you'll see first, you don't have to remember what I'm showing you. Instructions pop up and they are really simple. That's all the instructions. It's essentially as easy to use as Google Maps. But now over here on the right, we have layered options. So this is starting with the supervisorial districts and the census and tracks and places. We can hide those if we want. And you can scroll down and see, okay, I don't want the colors. I want to see some of those demographic data. I want to see percent rent or occupied housing. And the same numbers show up here. The trick is now you can zoom in and zoom out as before. You can even enter an address. Type an address and it will zoom right in on that address as you wish. You can also change the base map. What does that mean? That means you can, if you click on the base map gallery, you can pick a satellite image. And the overlay will actually be on the satellite image. If I go back to layers, hide this, now I can really see exactly where those current district borders go. Or once we have draft maps, you'll be able to look house by house at where the current borders go. So that's the interactive review map. Again, it's got all the data that you saw in the story map, but now you can pick and choose yourself. And we will then be adding on the draft maps. So this is where you can compare maps as those draft maps come out. And again, there's no login required. It's as easy to use as Google Maps. So those are both review tools where you can see data, you can gather information, and you can compare maps yourself. Now let's get into the actual drawing of map skits. And again, these are not required tools. These are all about empowering you, the residents, to share your thoughts. So at the basic level, we have these paper kits. We call them public participation kits. And we've divided the county up into chunks of geography. And you can see right on here, the total population for each of these areas. The darker shaded areas are the cities. The lighter shaded areas are the census designated places. And there's a separate map on the website that labels each of them and has the key freeways, so you can get a little more reference points. But all you do is add these numbers up. You can see is circled in red. These each have the total population for each population unit, and you just add them up until you get to about 307,891, more or less. And then you can simply take a picture of your map and email it in. Or of course you can mail it in, fax it in, or any of those more traditional approaches. So that's all you need is this piece of paper and a pen, and you can draw a population balance map. If you want to get into the demographics a little bit, we have a similar map as part of the kit, but instead of population numbers, it has ID numbers in each of those same population units. And if you're comfortable with Microsoft Excel, we always say don't try to learn Excel for this, it's not worth it. But if more and more people already know Excel, so if you're comfortable with Excel, you simply open up the Excel file, you look up the population unit ID number and type in which district you want to assign that to. A second sheet in that Excel file will then add up the numbers and give you the demographics of citizen voting age and registered voters by ethnicity and race. So Excel will do the math for you. And over here on the right, it'll give you your population deviation. And if that's green, you're good. And if it's red, you're outside of the 10% limit that Doug Yoakum talked about earlier. So paper kits, paper and Excel kits, all are pretty easy to use. If you don't want to draw a district, you just want to draw your neighborhood, we have a really simple tool for that too. It's called District R, or Districtor is actually how they pronounce it. So let me jump to that. And you can just, there are instructions here, but it's pretty easy. As I open it up, so I want to draw my neighborhood. And then we've got our pan tool. You just click and move, or plus and minus, just like before. Zoom into your neighborhood area. And you can also pull up the data. If you go to data layers, check the box, here's all those demographic units again. So you can pick whatever category you want. It'll shade it in by color, and you can see the key here. So then to draw your community, you use the paintbrush. Really easy. Choose your paintbrush. You can make the paintbrush really wide, and it's going to pick up a big area. So when I click, it's going to pick everything that paintbrush, all the census blocks that paintbrush touched. Or if you want to fine tune your map, as I move and click, or just hold down the mouse and brush across the screen, you can see with the smaller option, it's getting a smaller area. So you just color it in. Say this is, I'm just picking an area at random, of course, but you would go to your neighborhood and figure out, what do you consider your neighborhood? Now I got an extra one. That's what the eraser is for. Simply go up here and say, nope, don't want to include that. And if you want to see how many people are in each of these census blocks, you can do that too, as you use the inspection tool. As you move around, it'll tell you how many people are in each block. The key thing with this is to name your community. Move it, demo COI1, and to describe it. As Mr. Yoakum was talking about earlier, what is it that ties this community together? Why is it a community of interest that should be kept together? So we all share concerns about blank, 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 and we all similarly, speak the same language, or whatever you want to say. Speak the same language at home. So you have the chance to share with words and pass along what is it that ties this map together. And when you're done, you just hit save, and that submits your map. And then you can add additional maps as you go through the process, one by one. You're not limited to just drawing your own. So that's the District R kind of simple paintbrush. Just choose your paintbrush width and go in here. And when you're ready for the next one, you just click the plus, you get a new color, and start on your second neighborhood. Boom, boom, boom. So really easy to use. Now there is a capability in District R, some of you I'm sure will look into and see. The purple button on that home page allows you to draw a district map. So you could draw the whole county. And you're certainly welcome to do that and submit that map. But using a paintbrush to draw the whole county is a big project. So there's a more powerful tool for that. If you want to get into actually submitting maps, we do recommend using this Map2 Online Redistricting. It's very powerful, has lots of capabilities, so I'm just going to briefly show it to you. There is a 12-minute video that walks through how to use the whole tool on this county website. Let me open up the map. You can see here, you've got a lot of different options, obviously a lot more power than in the District R tool. First of all, down up here in the pull down, you have a language option. If you choose Spanish, all the controls switch to Spanish. You can choose Spanish, Portuguese, Vietnamese, Korean, or Mandarin. All those languages are available for this tool. Let me go back to English. The first thing you want to do when you log in is go through the tips. So choose your language and choose tips. And this will give you a very in-depth walk through your screen. What does each part of the screen do? So I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but that's a great way to get up to speed on this tool, in addition to watching that how-to video. It will also help you if you have any questions, if you forget how to do something. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how do you have options of what you're looking at. First of all, you can choose to color your map in by district ID. So each district gets a different color, obviously the simplest map. You can again zoom in and zoom out, of course. Or you can change it to, again, look at that demographic data. If you're trying to draw a district that concentrates renters, say, you choose renters. And again, here's the percentages. Purple is 0 to 25% of households are renter occupied. Going up to red is 75 to 100%. And so you can look at this data as you're drawing your map. And let's hide that. And so how do you draw your map? Well, first of all, you're going to move people into a district. You can start from a blank map. It's one of the options when you first come in. and then you would choose a new district. I'm going to just, for this demonstration's sake, move people into District 1 from District 2. And so this makes sure that I don't accidentally grab someone from District 3 if I just want to switch from District 1 and 2. And then I can pick at different levels. I can pick an individual block, which is obviously going to be a very slow process because you're picking city block by city block. I can choose to draw a circle around a bunch of blocks, and it's going to pick up everything that my line touches. And you can also choose to pick by larger areas, especially when you're out in the more unincorporated areas. You may want to pick by block group or tract, picking bigger areas to move from one district to another just by one click. So that's going to pick that whole tract. Then before I make that change, I can look at the pending changes box down here. Oops, there we go. And you can see I'm moving 12,000 people from one district to another. And here's that deviation. So obviously I'm making District 1 bigger by 12,000 people, District 2 less by 12,000 people. And it's going to make my deviation 4.9% in District 1 and 5.0% in District 2. So then I would have to go somewhere else and balance out these changes. If I like those numbers, and again, the ethnic numbers, the renters, all that data is here. If I like that change, I click the check mark for yes. If that's not what I was trying to do, and I don't want to make the change, I click the red. Whoops, and it's logged me out. I was talking too much. Click the red button, and it will undo that change and set it back to the previous level. So it's fairly easy. It does take some time to get used to, but super powerful. You have all the data in the system that we have on our desktop computers as your demographic consultants. So we highly recommend diving into this, and hopefully people will draw their map and submit their maps for us to process and the county board to consider as they look at making changes here. So again, I do want to emphasize these tools are all to empower you, make you feel that you can participate in a meaningful way, but these are not required. If we always say, if you want to just draw a map on a napkin, we will take that in and process that as well. We're just trying to encourage people to participate as much as possible. So with that, all of us from the county team and from NDC are happy to take any questions or comments you wish to share. And again, here is the number to call in to offer your public comments. With that, back to you, Courtney.
Great, thank you. Doug and Doug, great information on the general timeline, what redistricting is, things we have to consider, and then also the tools to be able to like you said, empower our community to submit their ideas, their boundaries, and their comments. So it doesn't look like we have anything in the Q&A. So Flo, we have our wonderful Florence Evans helping us out today. Is anyone on the phone line?
We do not have anyone on the phone line at this time.
Okay, then I think NDC, I think I have a few questions for you. It looks like with the mapping tools, I mean, it's quite a range of possibilities there. What do you what's your recommendation for maybe someone who's just starting out? What tool might be best? It looked like there was one tool that was much better for like defining community of interest. And then there was a tool to be able to actually get that 307,000 count. So what are kind of the pros and cons that you see of each of the tools that you demonstrated?
Yeah, I'll take that first, and then Doug, add anything you want. The main thing is to feel comfortable. So people can, if they want, just fill out the form that the county has on the website. It's just text describing their neighborhood. But that sometimes makes it hard for us to draw that neighborhood into a map. So that's where we look for people to either take a local neighborhood map, they can just print something and draw on that, or to take that District R or Districtor tool and use the nice paintbrush to give us the exact census blocks that they want in that neighborhood. The paper tools are also great. Some people find those work perfectly. Others find, well, they want to fine tune their maps more than that, than an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper allows. And so often people will start with the paper map and then say, well, okay, now I'm feeling more comfortable with adding up the numbers and drawing lines. So they'll jump into District R. or jump into all the way into the Maptitude tool. We do encourage folks. What we find is very few people submit one map through the Maptitude tool. Some people, oh, it takes more than 5 minutes to learn, and so they give up. The other half figure it out. They spend the 5 or 10 minutes, figure it out, and then love it. So you either submit no maps or where they submit 2 or 3 or 4 maps, because once you figure it out, it's pretty easy to use. Doug, anything to add to that?
No, I've been using these tools for years, so I'm an expert on the caliper tool. But I found District R to be very easy to just to find where I am, what my individual neighborhood is. I have not tried to use that to draw a 5-district plan yet, but so I'm biased. I've been using these things for a long time, so I would start with District R and just try to paint some things, and then I would go to Maptitude and say, oh, now I'm going to draw some things.
Great recommendation. Great recommendation. Yeah, thank you for that. We do have a question in the Q&A feature of Zoom. Great question. And we get a lot of questions about this, especially in regards to when the data is coming out and what data is being used. The question is, will the map software be updated with the new 2020 census data? And if so, when?
As I stated, it'll be around the 1st of October after the state has officially put out the redistricting database. That's the state's responsibility under the law, and it's the county's responsibility to use that data.
The data that's in there now is actually developed by NDC. The total population data should clarify. The total population numbers are data developed by NDC, mainly from Census Bureau American Community Survey data. We used the Census Bureau's American Community Survey to figure out where growth has happened. And we added that growth into the 2010 census numbers. What we found is just using the American Community Survey data, that data has a lot of issues. Particularly Justin Levitt discovered down in San Diego, they missed a whole college dorm with a few thousand people in it. So we didn't want to just use that. So that's why we have this NDC developed database that catches those errors and fixes that. So our anticipation is, if you draw a map now, it'll just take some fine tuning when the official data comes out in October.
Great, great. So basically what we can do now is have our community kind of get familiar with the tools, use the estimated data, submit their ideas and potential boundaries, but knowing once the official data then comes out in October, we would probably ask our community to revisit, see if anything has changed, and make sure that they were good with what they submitted.
Yes, and when they register with the Maptitude tool, they actually give an email address. We don't validate it, or there's so many problems with spam and validation, but if people give a real email address, and when the official data comes out, and if their map is slightly off, we will email them to say, hey, with the new data, you're slightly off. You want to log in and make some adjustments to it to bring it into balance.
Oh, that's
so encouraging
great.
people to submit the real email address would be useful for them too.
That's really great to get that notice, because as we know, with the delay in the data, everything's going to be have to be done very quickly. Y'all going to have to get to work and get those drafts out to our board, to our public very quickly. So time will be of the essence. So that's great that they would get that notification. I'm going to go ahead and read off the phone number one more time. If anyone wants to call in, it's 916-875-2500. And select option 1 to be placed in the queue if you have questions or feedback or concerns. And in the meantime, I should probably check Flo. Has anyone called in?
We do not have any calls at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Flo. I kind of want to go off of the data question a little bit. What are the rules regarding what data you can use? I know you mentioned the American Community Survey for some more detailed demographic data. Obviously, we're waiting for that census data to get all cleaned up for us. But what are the rules in terms of what we can use or can't use when we're redrawing our district boundaries?
Sure. So as Doug Yocum mentioned in the criteria slide, we cannot use any, we cannot favor or discriminate against any political party. And so the way to stay in legal compliance with that is to not use any political data. So that's why we don't have any election returns data in there. We don't have any voter registration data in there. And the courts have been very clear, and California state law has now joined them in saying districts are equal population based on total people. So it's total human beings in each district. It's not an equal number of registered voters or an equal number of people casting ballots. So we can't define communities of interest based on ties to an incumbent or to a political party or party registration or anything like that. So it's all the socioeconomic data that we talked about before that we use. And the good thing is when people are working on the maps now, the only real piece of data that's delayed from the Census Bureau is the total population count. The citizen voting age population data and the renters data, that's all American Community Survey data, and we are using the official final data. So that is what we will be using for this whole process. The only data we're waiting on are the total population counts in the end.
Got it. Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's great. And you did mention the community of interest form. So I do want to just take this quick opportunity to go to our website with the great work of our Department of Technology and Public Information Director to share a little bit on what our redistricting website looks like. So actually right on the mapping tools here, hopefully everyone can see my screen. All those mapping tools that Doug went over, we have the links and the information right on our website. So we have our redistricting website. We'll go to the home page first. We have some great basic information in terms of what is redistricting, why is redistricting important, including some frequently asked questions, and how the public can participate in redistricting. And from here, you can see all of the meetings and the hearings we're going to be having. You can also sign up for those updates on our hearings, meetings, other information that might come out related to redistricting when we schedule those district-specific workshops. You can sign up here to be able to receive those notifications in your inbox. There is also more information, including printable flyers for the redistricting process that our community can use at any neighborhood or community event. And then we have a link to the mapping tools, including some tutorial videos as well, and translations in languages that are very prevalent in Sacramento County. So here are all the tools, and including links to the videos so the public can participate if they want to use one of the cool tools, even just to play around, get familiar with it. The last item is also the communities of interest form. So as Doug mentioned, that if you're not comfortable doing the map or you just want to provide other comments, of course, you can email redistricting@saccounty.net. But we did create a form, which we took a lot from the Common Cause template for communities to be able to participate without actually having to draw any boundaries. And we hope that this form allows our community members, our public, to be able to share their thoughts on this with a few prompts that we have. So this form is online. Again, you can print it out. Feel free to share it with your community. It defines what a community of interest is, why a community of interest is important. You know, our goal is to make sure that we don't, to the extent possible, as we even out those populations, that we don't dilute any communities of interest voting power. So we want to be aware what these communities of interest are. Of course, the goal is to, again, even out the residents of each district, but we want to take these important considerations that make up our neighborhoods, that make up our community. We really want to make sure we consider those as we propose some map options. I think it's also important to know some districts may see large changes. Some districts may see minimal changes. It really depends on where the population falls. It depends on the feedback we receive from the public. So it's kind of hard to say at this point how much or how large the changes are going to be that are going to affect our supervisorial districts. I also want to clarify that this is the county supervisorial redistricting process. We have cities, as Doug mentioned before, we have cities that will be going through their own process. We have other districts that will be going through their process, and school districts. Any district that elects representatives by district will be going through their own redistricting process. So this is for supervisorial boundaries only. So we wanted to make this very county specific. So we have some prompts here to hopefully help people fill out these forms, including I would like to keep my community together, and you can think about the services you have, including those county services that Doug had mentioned before, social or civic networks, parks, churches, neighborhood associations. We definitely want to hear about that. You can also provide, without having to use a map, this second area, and I should note this form is fillable. The second area is where you can actually say where you feel your community is located. And then you can also complete the areas that say my community is similar to the following neighborhoods, or my community is different from the following neighborhoods. And I always like to think of our areas in South Sacramento where we have Land Park and how that differs from Curtis Park, and how that differs from Oak Park, and how that differs from Tahoe Park. So we know these communities share a lot of the same services, but we also know that those communities can be very different, especially on some of that demographic data that Doug was alluding to earlier. And I love that I can just say Doug and it means either Doug, so I don't have to remember exactly which Doug said it. So this form is available. And also the last one is anything regarding your history of your community that we should take into consideration as well. Please feel free. And you can email this form at redistricting@saccounty.net. And if you do print forms, you can always, like Doug said, you can take a picture and email it to us. You can mail it to us. However you want to get it to us is great. So I'm going to, looks like we got a Q&A. Oh, and I think it's being answered. That's great. So the question is, how can one view the recording of this briefing later? Great question. We are going to be posting this online on our actual meetings and hearings page. So that's, I believe, I won't save that because I just typed in gobbledygook. And then you can see here with the meetings and hearings page, we will actually have that on our virtual public workshop. So the workshop we did from the 21st is already on there. When this is done, we will add this as well. And as we continue to do more, we will. And please keep in mind, while some of these dates here might change, again, once we get that official data for the total population, it's going to move very quickly. So another way to participate from there. And again, if you wanted to call in with a public comment, the phone number is 916-875-2500. Select option 1. And maybe while we give folks a last chance to participate, I think I have one more question for the Dougs. You know, as Doug Yoakum went over in detail the different criteria, I would imagine that depending on the volume of comments or suggested boundaries or information we receive from our public, that might be kind of hard to weigh it all and to consider all of those comments. So how is NDC going to take those those suggestions, that public input, and weigh those different criteria to come up with some draft proposals that the board and the public can look at.
Oh, like I said, we will be responsible for summarizing each one of the submissions. The first one would be making sure that they're population balanced. And if they're not, we would explain how what percentages they are off, or what percentages they're actually compliant with. So we would explain that. One of the things that we do is try to group them together. If we get similar proposals from different folks, we'll group them together and say, here's group one. These folks generally put Rancho Cordova in a district or something like that. We'll try to summarize them in a way that we can understand them more easily, especially if there's a large number. And then finally, we will come up with a combination of maps. From a combination of maps, we'll come up with a recommendation as to what the county might want to consider doing. And then it will be up to the supervisors, who are, after all, the final decision makers here, to decide that, yeah, this is a good idea, or no, we want to go in a different direction, and let's talk about this at the next meeting. So generally, we will summarize, we will categorize, and then we will make proposals.
Great, great. So that, yeah, so, and that's why we have all those public hearings scheduled, even if they're kind of tentative right now. So there's plenty of time for the board to consider the options and receive public comment on those options. So it really sounds like, as your slide showed, that, you know, the first thing we want to do is make sure those populations are evened out in each district. Then we can consider those other criteria under the Fair Maps Act regarding communities of interest and taking those into consideration. And then kind of that third column was kind of like the best traditional best practices. As you said, Doug Yoakum, which I love the term willy-nilly. We don't want to just change district boundaries willy-nilly just for the sake of changing them, but we also want to hear from the public if there is something that we should be, you know, whether it's fixing or correcting or changing moving forward. So thank you for that summary. That will be quite a task on you guys, but you've done this before. I know you can do it. So Flo, I'm going to check in with you. Is anyone on the phone line?
We do not have any speakers.
Okay. And it looks like our Q&As are taken care of as well. And I should probably, you know what, I'm going to share my screen one more time, give folks one last chance to call in. Phone number 916-875-2500. Choose option 1. But I am going to share my screen. Something I did forget to share, and the comments made me remember that as we mentioned at the beginning of this, all submissions are part of the official record and will be posted to our website. So there is a place where you can view the public comments here. So far, we have 2. We hope to get more as we do more presentations, as we work with more communities. So you can always go here to review the public comments submitted so far. Again, also here is where you can sign up for the updates. So great information at our Sacramento County redistricting website to use. And please also, if you want to email redistricting@saccounty.net for any presentations in your community, please let us know. We would be happy to come out or do a virtual version, whatever you would like. So let's see, nothing in the Q&A here. And I'll just do one last check with the phones, or if anyone else has any other questions.
We do not have any callers at this time, dear.
Great, thank you, Flo. I mean, not great. I mean, I do kind of want some callers, but I also realize it's early on a Wednesday. So So, you know, I'm sure the more we do, and as the closer we get to that official data coming out, we will get more information. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and do my closing comments here, and we will close the public comment period for now. But again, we still take the questions through the redistricting@saccounty.net email address. We will still have those district presentations as well. So still plenty of time for other public comments and input. This is kind of just our first kickoff introduction to the whole process. And I'm very grateful for NDC helping us with this and talking us through what we need to do, what we need to consider, and how we can participate. So very happy with that. So as mentioned, tonight's presentation and the summary of comments and the submissions of any draft maps will be made available online at the county's redistricting webpage, which we showed you. We welcome community input and comments at any time at redistricting@saccounty.net. We also have that great communities of interest form to help our constituents and community groups provide testimony on their communities of interest. And again, please feel free to print those out, distribute as you feel appropriate. And then we also, as we are kind of talking about needing public input and wanting public input, we also have the American Rescue Plan Act funding coming to the County of Sacramento. And we want to hear from the public on that as well. So not directly related to redistricting, but another way that the community can let us know how they want the county to proceed. So you can visit the webpage, which is at our COVID-19 webpage with a link to a survey. And you can also email arp@saccounty.net for more information. And if you have any questions, please contact us at 916-874-5451. And one of our redistricting project team members will be happy to assist you. So for those that did come out to spend time with us on this Wednesday morning, really appreciate your participation, participate you being here. And again, NDC, thank you so much for all your great information and the tools that you provide to help our community engage. So if there's nothing else, then we will go ahead and say good day and hope you all are well, stay safe, stay cool, and be sure to check this presentation out on our website. So, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.